Dual credit students specifically are the ones who are most open to this approach. So that's a little bit about me and how I came to this focus. I'd like to start today first by talking a little bit about dual enrollment in general. So dual enrollment, let me see if I can't get my slideshow to be friends with me here. Dual enrollment refers to a process by which students are simultaneously and usually at different educational levels enrolled in courses or training, trying to, as they say, get two birds with one stone. So dual enrollment kind of encapsulates both sides that we're most familiar with, the dual credit students and the early college high school students. Today, I'm going to speak most specifically towards the dual credit side of things, but I absolutely don't want to ignore the importance of the dual enrollment system and the early college high school students. So I did a little bit of digging through college credit reports and the PEAMS standard reports available from TEA. And I found that last year they reported over 500,000 different students taking some kind of college credit. Over 2 million hours of college credit were earned by dual enrollment students last year, which I saw that number and I thought it was a little bit crazy. Now, not every student took a lot of hours. Some were early college high school and taking primarily college classes. Some are dual credit, and they are, of course, limited on the number of hours they can take each semester. But those are staggering numbers when you consider how many students are actually enrolled in Texas high schools. It's under 2 million. And how new, relatively, some of these programs are. These kinds of classrooms are only going to increase as far as their frequency, their prevalence, and their importance. We get a lot of our community college students as individuals who are continuing on in their education from being introduced through these programs. Our colleges see them as very, very important, not just as a financial source, but as a source for spreading that message of community. So obviously you already think these things are a little bit important, or else you wouldn't be here this morning. But I wanted to give you some numbers to kind of paint that picture, to kind of frame it as far as how important these classrooms are and the way we approach them is. So dual enrollment is that simultaneous taking of courses on different educational levels. And there are so many benefits available to the students. Students who are enrolled in these classes often demonstrate higher graduation rates. Currently, the graduation rate of regular high school students in Texas is about 90%. Graduates from early college high school programs, for example, is at 94.8%. So we see more retention and more ultimate success in those programs as well. Students enrolled in dual enrollment programs often go on to college enrollment, have higher college completion rates, and of course, that wonderful reduced time towards their degrees. I have 3 kids of my own, and I've already voluntold all 3 of them for dual enrollment programs in their futures, just because it gives them so much more freedom as far as what they want to study and how they want to study it, as well as that financial freedom down the road. You can find more benefits to dual enrollment by checking out the U.S. Department of Education blog, and I will post these slides in the chat at the end of our time today so that all of my fun hyperlinks are actually available to anyone interested. Before I go any further, I do want to make sure that we understand the distinction between dual credit and early college high school. I will be bluntly honest with you. I didn't know the real difference until I'd already been teaching these classes for a couple of years. Early college high school students can start as early as ninth grade. They only have to have completed eighth grade and proven that they're up to the standards required by the state to enroll in college classes. I've had students that are 14 years old. And the first time it happened, it absolutely took me by surprise. These students are able to graduate high school with an associate's degree, and some of them come out with two associates degrees. They take many more college classes, and they're oftentimes on the college campus itself. For example, at ACC, our Round Rock campus is flooded with Round Rock early college high school students. Our Elgin campus is flooded with Manor early college high school students. We have them in droves. And they're really good kids, and they're excited, but they don't always come to us knowing what is actually expected of them academically and maturity-wise. The dual credit systems, in contrast, generally start for 11th graders. And these students will take 2 classes per semester, and they'll come out with 24 credit hours towards their college degrees, generally. Of course, there are exceptions to the rules, but that's the main way it happens. These classes are going to happen on the high school campus, in the high school classroom, attended by all of the interesting and sometimes frustrating policies and procedures of the high schools. So early college that occurs on college campuses, we have a lot more control over certain aspects of our courses. Dual credit, which occurs on the high school campuses, we have less of that specific control, but we're getting students who are further into their academic careers. There are pros and cons and nuances to both kinds. So today I'm going to speak primarily to dual credit. That's partly because this semester I happen to be teaching several dual credit classes, but it's also because I want to elaborate on that distinction between the different programs. And lumping them together all the time, I think, can lead to a lot of confusion. If you want to learn more about early college high school, I am more than happy to chat about that or stick around after the discussion. I'm always open for coffee as well, if anybody wants to get coffee and talk about these things. But today I am going to focus primarily on those dual credit students. And Vicki, I apologize, I don't have my chat open, so I won't see if anybody posts questions. Will you alert me if that happens? Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Should I say Dr. Van Nest instead of Vicki? Okay, thank you. All right, so because I love these kids, these dual credit kids so much, I want to talk to y'all a little bit about what they are getting out of these programs. The main thing that they're getting from various scholarly perspectives is they're getting this continuum, this continuity of learning from their high school to college experiences. I've been teaching dual credit since 2016. And in that time, I have met so many professors from lots of different disciplines. And one thing that seems to be consistent is professors who are brand new to teaching high school students taking college classes. Is professors come in with this idea that, okay, I am teaching college students, let's do this. And on the one hand, I love that. And the kids love that. They want to be treated like adults. They're excited to taste what's coming next, especially when you get the second semester seniors who have senioritis so bad, it looks kind of like a rash. These kids want to be treated like adults. They are still kids. They don't know yet what they don't know. And so while we treat them like adults, they are not adults. We are giving that opportunity for continuity. We are that bridge to take them from the high school environment, show them what's going to happen in the college environment, and get them excited for it. At the same time, sadly, this is not Star Trek, and we don't have transporters, and we can't simply beam them into that college sphere. We have to take them there. We are, of course, providing things like eliminating the duplication of courses, saving them time, saving them money, teaching them new study skills, teaching them deeper and broader discussion skills. We're expanding their academic options and helping them be successful. Our primary job, from my perspective, and from a lot of the scholarly research that's out there, our primary job is to be their bridge. With that in mind, I decided to create a survey and distribute it to current and former students from the dual enrollment programs offered through Austin Community College. I asked many of my colleagues, again, in different departments and disciplines, to help me spread the word. I didn't want the data pool to be focused solely on my students. I thought that wouldn't really be worth a lot. And fortunately for me, many of my colleagues stepped up, and I got 112 respondents to this survey. So would have loved more, of course, but I'm very happy with 112 in a fairly short window. And I've compiled some of the results from that survey to share with y'all today. So the first question I asked students, just demographically, was, as best as you recall, what grade were you when you started taking ACC classes? And the feedback to this question, as well as the next question, is also what led me to decide to focus on dual credit today, because overwhelmingly, the responses were dual credit students. So the majority of the students who responded did start in that 11th grade year. I did have one student who said they weren't sure, and I thought that was kind of hilarious. So some people didn't remember when they got going, but there we are. The dual credit students make up the majority of this program. Generally with dual credit, they have to start in their junior year, and then they have to continue through the program. Sometimes students will transfer into the district and they're allowed to start as seniors, but the majority of the times they do it for 2 full years. With dual credit, okay, so many of the schools out there are on the block schedule, and they have A days and B days at their high schools. And they're very used to, we just alternate back and forth in a Monday through Friday schedule. At least for ACC, we're a Monday through Thursday schedule. And so we offer Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. We aren't A day, B day professors. We just show up the same 2 days a week. So the high schools make it work by having 2 classes required at any given time. So the students, regardless of the high school schedule, are always in their dual credit classes every day at the same class period. And oftentimes they get Friday off, which they love. Because of this, students' enrollment in one class is partially dependent upon their success in their other dual credit class. If a student is doing poorly in my class, for example, it impacts their ability to stay enrolled in their partner class. And that can be problematic. Sometimes you'll have students performing very well in one class, struggling in another, and they ultimately have to leave the dual credit program. And this causes a lot of frustration on the high school's end because of scheduling. And so with that in mind, it's up to the professor how far they want to stretch themselves to extend that bridge. Because again, these are kids and they come in with different issues and different concerns than the general traditional college students. So the majority of the respondents were or are juniors in high school when they started this program. And the vast, overwhelming majority of students who responded to this survey are dual credit students. I do sometimes have homeschool students who are enrolled in my classes, and I will see these students either in the early college high school sections or the traditional sections on college campuses. And this semester, I actually have two who are taking my online asynchronous course. The homeschool students won't come to the high school campuses because of zoning and laws and legalities and whatnot. And they will be mixed in with, I want to do air quotes so many times here, traditional adult learners. So based on what you see here, I decided that dual credit would be my focus. And perhaps next semester I can do some kind of follow-up with early college, high school. So I asked the students, what kind of programs were you enrolled in? How old or what grade were you at when you joined? And what modality did you take your classes in? The vast majority, again, responded with face-to-face classrooms. They were allowed to answer as many as applied to them, and so you will see some overlap here. The students who responded are the kids who were in high school barely during the pandemic. And so we have students who had that interesting gap in their socialization and how they experienced high school education now in those college classrooms. They went from learning online, either synchronously or asynchronously, and now they're face-to-face with a college professor trying to figure all of these things out. We do offer classes that are high flex, async, sync, and face-to-face for our dual credit and early college high school students. And my preference is definitely the face-to-face. And it seems from this response that a lot of students are coming to us through that modality as well. So then I said to the students, all right, the focus of this whole thing is engagement in the classroom. We know the details and the demographics of what dual credit is and what early college high school is. But the thing that we share is we want engagement. Engagement is how learning happens. No matter the modality, engagement is how learning occurs. And so I asked my students, how engaged do you personally feel in your classes? And I have to say, I was personally thrilled by how these responses played out. It seems that students are more engaged in their college classes than they are in their regular high school classes. Obviously, a broader pool would give us more reliable data, but based on just these results, I was pretty pleased. We're doing it right. Those of us who are in the high school classrooms, on the high school campuses, we're doing something right. And those of us who are teaching the early college classes on the college campuses, we're doing something right too. So what is it? I know that it's great. It feels wonderful to say, hey, ooh, look at this. I'm doing it. Yay, everyone's happy. But what are the things that I'm doing? What can I do better? What do I need to do more of? It's great that they're engaged, but what do they consider actually engaging? So I went to a source that is a little unconventional, but well known to my students. I checked out ratemyprofessor.com. And from ratemyprofessor.com, I found a list of tags that students can select when rating their professors. And I added to this list. A lot of the tags on this list are things like amazing lectures, hilarious, professional, welcoming. I added a few things that from the educator side, I also think are important, like adheres to student accommodations. RateMyProfessor.com gives students the chance to tell the world about their experience in the classroom. And while it can be interesting, I don't consider it a great research source. So I decided to modify the options and tags provided by them and ask my students directly, what things does a professor do that contribute to your positive feelings of engagement? I did a lot of work back in grad school on teacher immediacy behaviors and student immediacy behaviors, on cognitive, affective, and behavioral learning. And there's so much stuff out there. What can a professor do to create those feelings of intimacy, of immediacy, closeness, and connection in the classroom? And a lot of the teacher immediacy behaviors out there are fairly straightforward. Things like learning your students' names, not sitting behind a desk all the time while you teach, having assignments that are engagement and relevant to their real lives, not just problems that only come up in the classroom or on exams. So I added some of those behaviors to this list as well. Learn student names is one of the highest, moves through classroom also. On the previous question, where students were allowed to pick as many behaviors as they want, the number one choice was respectful. 91 respondents chose respectful as the thing that makes them feel engaged. The most people picked that option. But when it came to what has the greatest impact on your ability to be engaged, which of course contributes to our cognitive, affective, and behavioral learning, students picked clear grading criteria. This tells me that kids are motivated by knowing what is expected of them and by being able to quantifiably gauge their performance. And that resonates with me because I am definitely a grade motivated student. I've always been the kid who is chasing that higher grade, for good or for bad. I do get that perspective. So students want clear grading criteria. They want the kinds of rubrics that their high school teachers are required to submit to their administrators. They want things where the TEKS and the TACs are outlined so they know how many points are distributed on which thing. These students haven't been exposed to holistic rubrics at this point. And we can expose them to the more subjective approaches to grading, but they're still very rooted in those, please tell me exactly how many points this chunk is worth. Give me an exemplar of how you want it to look, walk me through the steps, and check my work as I go. And sometimes I tell my students, ain't nobody got time for all of that. I'm not going to check every single draft of every single thing that you ever come up with. But I will provide templates and I will provide previous student work, not just A-level work, but C-level work with my commentary and edits throughout. And I'm absolutely available to look at one rough draft of anything that you want to submit. We can't let their desire to have their hands held take away from our sanity. And we can't let them think that every college professor is going to hold their hand all the time. But we can wean them off. We can be that bridge. Another thing that students say very much contributes to their feelings of engagement is getting feedback. They love getting that feedback. And this can be little things, and it can be the big things where you sit down with them after class and say, all right, let's walk through the paper that you turned in. I'm going to tell you what I love, and I'm going to tell you where you could improve for the future. I was impressed by how many students did not seem to care about professors' online savvy as far as their feelings of engagement. They don't seem to care that I don't use all of the same social media that they do, that I am not, pardon me, hip to their lingo. But they do enjoy on occasion my ability to come up with pop culture references and to show that I am at least a little bit tapped in to the things that are part of their everyday lives. I also love the the disparity here. They want to be treated like adults, but some of them still recognize that they need to be treated like teenagers. I want to, in the future, play more with some of the stuff on this survey and see how they really feel about that when given voice. So I asked them about what behaviors contribute to their feelings of engagement, both quantitatively and qualitatively. They were required to provide a short answer response to this question. And I divided their responses into two different categories. The first of which being what professor behaviors impact your feelings of engagement, and what can professors do to improve engagement in the classroom. So here's a brief smattering of the responses that they offered. I do, of course, love teenagers think they're grown up. Treat them that way, and they'll either feel respected or realize they have a lot of growing up to do. I think that speaks to so many things that we have encountered, both as students in our own disciplines, but also as students trying to become better educators. We need to, and we need to outwardly demonstrate our confidence that our students can meet that bar, and also our expectation that they will meet that bar. They will either say, oh my gosh, of course I'm capable, or they will say, oh wow, apparently I've got some work to do, but this professor seems to think I can do it, so I'm going to try. I also want to take a moment to point out another comment. One thing I have noticed when doing dual credit is that professors sometimes assign homework or have their office hours in a way that doesn't align with common high school schedules. Later in the presentation, I want to talk about some of the issues that are unique to the dual credit classroom, and this one ties in very well with that. These kids have packed schedules, and oftentimes the high schools don't provide us a space to meet with our students. Last year, I got to use a chemistry storage closet for office hours during passing periods. That was what was available on the campus at that time. Guess how many students ever came in to meet with me at all in the chemistry storage closet during passing periods? Yeah, no, not even one during the whole semester. I ended up ending my classes 5 to 7 minutes early every day, and I would tell my students, stick around if you need me, have a great day if you don't. And there would be a little line at the desk, and we would use that time to schedule chats after school hours. I gave them my number so they could text me because our schedules and our facilities just didn't line up to make that possible. All right, so another thing I asked students was, in the actual classroom, what activities occur that make you feel engaged? Overwhelmingly, it was discussions, and I was so happy. I teach a social science. I was very happy that discussion was a primary facilitator of engagement. They love to play games, and I don't have a lot of games, I'll be honest. They like to play Kahoots. They like to do Quizlets. They want us to stay up all night making Jeopardy questions for them, creating polls that they can respond to on their phones. And for some professors, that is their jam, and I'm a little bit jealous. I don't currently have the bandwidth to become an expert at developing polls that my students can respond to on their phones in class. It's something I'd like to do. But the kids do love some kind of games. They're used to having those. I personally feel like they're not going to have them so much on an actual traditional college campus. And so I tell myself it's okay that I'm not an expert at creating and delivering these materials, but I will say they do like them. My students also really like the group work. So halfway through the semester on the midterm exam, I always ask 2 questions for extra credit. Every exam, every class, every semester. And I say, what is something that works well in this class for you? What is something that currently happens that makes this class a positive thing? And then I ask, what is something that Christine can do more of, do less of, add, subtract, change, try to make this experience better for you? I want to get feedback from them while I still have a chance to implement it. I mean, hooray for faculty evaluations at the end of the semester, but I want a chance to make things good while they're still with me. And I often get many students saying, I want to do more group stuff. I want to be broken into small groups. I want you to give us an activity and make us put our desks in a square and talk about it. That's what I want. And so I do. And they seem to really like it. They like the chance to talk to each other. Because another thing that is unique to the dual credit classroom experience, again, on the traditional campus, is these kids all know each other. They're not random folks who happen to sign up for the same section on the same day in the same place. Some of these kids have been friends since kindergarten. And there are lots of other classes with each other. And sometimes they're dating each other, or they're in band together, or FFA. They have these existing relationships. You are the newcomer. We're not all strangers meeting. You are the joiner. And they have their own culture. And when you give them a chance to work in that culture, they will thrive. They know who they work well with. And they already have that understanding of the group norms. They do seem to like lecture as long as the note-taking side of lecture is something that they can easily follow. And what did surprise me is they don't care so much about videos. They don't need me to pull up YouTube clips to show examples. I found that surprising, but also comforting, because oftentimes on a high school campus, there are firewalls in place, and the videos you might show are blocked by the school district. So I then asked students to qualitatively respond as far as the activities were concerned. And here are some of the comments that they had related to what we actually do in the classroom. What would they like us to do more of? And 2 things that definitely caught my eye here. First, don't assign busy work. That's one thing that they are used to in the high school classrooms. So many high school campuses, teachers are required to teach from bell to bell. They're required to fill all of those educational minutes. And so oftentimes they will have busy work available for their students. If you were anything like me in high school, you hated busy work. Ugh, busy work. That's when I would get bored and ultimately end up talking to my friends and then getting called out by the teacher. Busy work was not for me. In my personal classrooms, I accept late work. I tell my students, if I assign something, it's because I genuinely believe that doing this work will help you better learn the concepts and better apply them to your real life. So if I assign it and you can't get it done in time, I still want you to do it. I will still take it for a grade penalty, obviously. And that's the trade-off I give them. I won't give you busy work, but everything I give you, I expect you to do. and I'll give you a cushion to make sure you have a chance to do it. The other one on here that I want to speak to briefly is on the bottom. I wish my professors would have presentations posted online or recorded lectures, since if you miss a class, you are left entirely in the dark. Again, personally, based on my experience in dual credit classrooms, I do post my slideshows to Blackboard so that students can access the notes I use when I lecture outside of class. Not every professor does this. Not every professor uses slideshows. But when I do have lecture days, I post those slides for my students, and they definitely seem to respond positively to that. They tell me it makes them feel like I want them to actually learn the material, not just retain it and regurgitate it for a test. They don't say regurgitate, I say that. That would be weird. So I was very pleased by the responses my students gave me. I was overwhelmed by the help my colleagues offered when it came to helping me out and giving me the opportunity to compile this data. And before we get to the very end of our time today, I want to speak to, again, that bridge, our high school versus college mentality. Dual credit classrooms, dual enrollment classrooms offer students the opportunity to play dress up as if they were little kids again. One of my mom's favorite stories to tell is me as a child dressing up in my grandpa's clothes and putting on his necktie and stepping my little tiny feet into his big man shoes. Kids don't fully outgrow that. High school students want to play dress up. They want to try on the demeanor and the guise of being college students. And while they're still in that safety zone of high school, it's an amazing opportunity for them. They get to look in the mirror and see how they could be. And we have the privilege of giving them that opportunity. Sometimes it will change how they think of themselves. And those are the moments that I'm here for. The dean of my college at ACC has written at length about the duality of dual credit. And he, in particular, points out that we must work in concert with the ISDs for these students. We are in a dual, a liminal space ourselves as professors, because we are high school teachers, we are college professors, we are hand holders, we are adult expectation havers, we are individuals who are just trying to do our jobs. And we are responsible for this amazing chance to help kids see themselves as what comes next. And we can't carry that alone. We must work with the high schools to accomplish this. When you are preparing a dual credit course, my motto is to expect the unexpected. There are unique challenges that come with teaching in a high school classroom on a high school campus that you can't avoid and you can't always plan for. One of the interesting issues is classroom management. Now, I've taught at four-year institutions. I used to teach at the University of North Texas, for example. And one of my favorite things about teaching traditional college classes was that if a student didn't want to be there that day, they just weren't there. If they were tired or busy or hung over, they just didn't come to class, and I didn't have to deal with it. High school, we don't have that opportunity. They have to be there, attendance, parents, etc. There are outside forces compelling them, even if they don't want to. And so we have to approach classroom management from a more onerous stance. Student relationships, I spoke to, these kids already know each other. Technology and tools, I've been in high schools where they have a projector on a cart and a screen, and you have to hook up the laptop to the projector and cross your fingers. A lot of classrooms now have the True Touch TVs, and sometimes the teacher who uses the classroom before me doesn't log out, and I have to find the mouse and connect it, or the keyboard even. Sometimes they have firewalls that block everything that you could possibly want to use. This semester, I'm working in a school district that has blocked my ACC email from their district. And so I can't open my email while I'm at work. Sometimes the calendars don't line up. The school district will have no school on days that you would really like to have class, but you can't. Sometimes the school is open, but there's PSATs, there's SATs, there's ACTs, there's STAR tests. I once had a class pulled because they had to go to an assembly about class rings and graduation packets. And I marched down there with my class and said, hey, to the vice principal of the school, hey, I'm going to need these kids back. Because right now they're in college, not high school. We need sometimes to take attendance for the school districts. They require us to fill out attendance and post it outside our doors. And it adds yet another thing to our list that we're not used to doing. We also have to think about the different safety procedures and protocols of the school districts. One of my high schools this semester got a brand new head principal, and this principal has decided that no one is to be made aware of fire drills. No one gets advance notice of fire drills anymore. It used to be that the teachers on campus could give me a heads up, hey, there's going to be a fire drill today. Not anymore. And so during a week where I'd already missed a class because the students were taking the PSAT and not available, we also got to lose 25 minutes of class time for an unannounced fire drill. Yeah. And nobody told me where to go. So apparently I took my students out the wrong door to the wrong part of campus, didn't have the emergency folder, and got chewed out. Luckily, she found me getting chewed out and turned around and gave it back to the person. We are lucky to have Professor Keller. And I was very, very grateful. But these things happen. I've been in 2-hour lockdowns. I've had students take 25-minute bathroom breaks. I've had schools have late starts that throws off the schedule for the whole days. Schools have finals weeks where they schedule the final for my class period on a day that I'm at another campus. They throw things on our plates that we just don't encounter anywhere else and expect us to roll with it because that's what the high school teachers do. So how do we get them to understand and see from our perspective so that we can be there for our students? Well, the subject I teach, communication. We have to be proactive. We have to be our own advocates. We have to find the people at our institution whose job it is to connect us with the high schools. And we have to go out of our way to connect ourselves with the high schools. When you teach dual credit, you are taking on extra jobs. And you can complain about them to your colleagues, absolutely, but you have to do them. That's part of this amazing privilege, this massive responsibility. I love what I do. I hope I get to keep doing it for a very long time. And now that I've told you about my experiences, I would absolutely love to open up the floor and hear about yours. Thank you so much for listening, for showing up. And I want to open the floor at this point to say, how can I help you? And I offer you my graduating senior dual credit students from Eastview High School in Georgetown this past spring, all of whom were 18 at the taking of this photo. an amazing class and the reason why I do this. So thank you kindly for your time, and I'd love to hear from you.
If anybody has any questions, if you'd just like to raise your hand, we'll unmute you and you can, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Patrice, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, do you find, good morning, do you find your experience with online dual credit to be different from face-to-face? Because
Oh, absolutely. Now, when you say online, do you mean synchronous or asynchronous?
Asynchronous.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
First of all, blessings upon you if you are teaching that kind of section. Those
Yes.
are hard.
Yes.
The thing I like to do in those sections is I create brief videos on Loom and post them. So like miniature lectures and miniature assignment descriptions where I walk them through some of the major requirements of the semester. And then I also have lots of discussion boards and then also journals. I crave their participation, and I think they get more out of it when they have to participate, not just with me, but with each other. But it's absolutely a different creature than face-to-face. You don't get to know them in the same way. You don't know how to support them in the same way. And they're still learning how to reach out and how to advocate for their educational needs. And so I think I do much more hand-holding in the online sections than I do in the face-to-face. But again, yeah, of a different nature.
Thank you.
I don't know if that's exactly what you were asking, but that's what I have.
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So there's a little bit of discussion in the chat that maybe you would want to address.
Ooh, let me open that up. Okay.
So
how far back am I going?
Not very far. It's I'm curious, as a college professor, why do you take attendance and other high school stuff that's really not part of the college environment? And then some kind of like agree or disagree kind of thing. So could you address that?
So the attendance issue. Some high schools have never asked me. A lot of the high schools I teach at, I return to year after year because I've built those relationships with the liaisons and because I like how they run their shit. The messier places, I'm like, oh, thanks for the experience. And I try not to go back. Some don't require attendance at all. Some every single day, some sweet little office aide comes by my classroom. And if I haven't hung the attendance outside the door, walk right in like they have any authority, the audacity, I have to say, and interrupt me and ask for the attendance. So I do try to post it outside the door every day in those cases, but when it happens, I stop them. And then after class, I go down to the liaison and I'm like, this isn't going to work. This isn't acceptable. We have a memorandum of understanding between your school district and my college as far as what I am required to do and what is required of you. And my class will not be interrupted. When it comes to, I'm so frustrated. They're telling me I have to take attendance in these classes. This isn't my job. First of all, I feel you. Secondly, for me personally, that's not a hill I'm willing to die on. Only you can decide that for you. For me personally, there are other things that I care about more or that I want more, and I want to save my fight for those. The school wants the attendance because the school gets money from the state based on attendance. And if you happen to be teaching at the time of day when they have to check in for money, they're going to do everything in their power to get it from you. It is also a safety issue because if you simply say, yep, everybody's here all the time, and that student was actually off campus involved in a car accident, it can have legal ramifications. I do it because, again, to me, there are other hills that I want to climb or that are more worth it. When it comes to the attendance thing, I try, whenever I go to a new school, a school I haven't taught at before, I try to meet up with their appointed campus liaison, usually a school counselor, ahead of time. And I say, show me where my classroom is. Show me how to log on to the computer. Show me where the bathrooms are. Because I've had kids. And tell me, what are your attendance requirements? What is the situation if we finish 5 minutes early? Can I let them go? Do I have to stand here awkwardly and keep them while I go, okay, guys, any questions? Like, how do we do? And if they say, oh, attendance is mandatory, I say, cool, let's work out our system right now. Because I am not okay with my class being interrupted. Do you want me to drop it by your office at the end of every day? Do you want me to just put a Post-it note outside the door that says who's missing? No, it's not part of my job as a college professor in a traditional classroom.
There was a lot of agreement about that statement, that it's not a
But yeah.
Yes. I will also add, you have to ask not just where the bathrooms are, but where the teacher bathrooms are, because if you're in a high school, you don't go into a high school bathroom.
No.
I do
want to speak. So you're right. Someone in the chat said, don't refer to these students as kids. That's something I go back and forth on. In some ways, to me, they are kids, and they're my kids, but they're not small children. They're still growing and still learning. And I probably said it more than necessary today. I could say students, I could say scholars, I could say learners. I know some people who might say customers. I don't talk down to them. I don't condescend or patronize to them. I truly mean kids from a place of genuine love and admiration. But I don't expect everyone to view that term the same way. And so I do acknowledge that there are other ways that can be approached. And I'm still scrolling. Expect the unexpected. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, a washing machine and dryer in the dual credit classroom. That's some amazing stuff right there. Sorry, I'm again scrolling. Online dual credit. You know, one thing I tell my students in the classroom is I say, we are like an American embassy on foreign soil. In this classroom, you are college students. But as soon as you step outside, you are high school students. Like, we're on American soil, but we're also in France. And we have to exist in a way that accommodates both environments. How many of y'all get the students who raise their hands every time they need to go to the bathroom? Yeah. How many of y'all tell the students at some point in the semester, if you need to go to the bathroom, just like go, please don't interrupt me. Yeah, that too. My rule is one at a time, because then they will peer pressure each other into not being gone for half the class period. What other questions might I address? Or, oh, you know, I need to post this gosh darn slideshow into the chat here. Give me just a moment to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to go find that slideshow on my desktop and share it with you.